Hello, period six. Sorry, I can't be there with you right now. I'm in a meeting, but hopefully my meeting will end early and I'll show up to class at some point. I know you already did your bell work today, but I wanted to show you throughout this first part of our unit when we're talking about holy matrimony. We have pictures of a bunch of different people who work at Holy Names on their wedding days. So here's Miss Coos and Miss Seabury looking so cute on their weddings. So I didn't want you to miss out on the pictures from bell work. But I hope you answered your bell work question well. So here we go. If you take a look in the Unit 4 tab of our content library, you will find the unit overview and study guide, and also you'll find on the very first page the Unit 4 calendar. So a couple things to highlight. We're going to be talking about the sacrament of holy matrimony this week. We have a reading quiz on Thursday. And then we are going to talk about the sacrament of holy orders next week. And then we also add in to this unit a bit about religious sisters and women religious and religious orders overall. So those are the main topics for this unit. This is our last unit on the sacraments. So just take a note of the reading quiz this Thursday and then another one next Tuesday. And we'll have our test on December 1st. And our essential question for this unit is in what ways are the sacraments of matrimony and holy orders serving the community? How do the preparations for, rituals practiced, or the symbols used for each sacrament connect to the call to service? So we'll be talking about the call to service throughout this unit. So let's write down on our unit overview and study guide the definition of the sacrament of holy matrimony. I know you love this picture, obviously. This is me and Pat at our wedding with Father Steve, who presided at our wedding. You can't see it here, but Pat wore purple Converse, if you're wondering, to our wedding and the reception. So the sacrament of holy matrimony is a lifelong covenant in which a baptized man and a baptized woman make an exclusive and permanent commitment to faithfully love each other and to cooperate in the procreation and education of children. So I want you to take a minute and turn to your sister and share with her what are some of the key parts of this definition. Okay, so hopefully you shared with your sister just now some of the key pieces to highlight when we're talking about the sacrament of a holy matrimony. As I'm sure you noted, this is between a baptized man and a baptized woman, and we'll talk about the differences in a minute of sacramental and non-sacramental marriages, but that is a piece of a sacramental marriage. And then there's two key points that the couple is going to commit to faithfully love each other and then to procreate and have children. So those are all key parts of this sacrament. Okay, so as we think about a big picture of marriage for a moment, there are two different types of marriage. So a sacramental marriage and a civil marriage. So first, a sacramental marriage. This is what we're talking about with the sacrament of holy matrimony. Here's a picture of Mr. Lundquist at his wedding with his wife Mandy. You can see the back of Father John Whitney's head there. So a sacramental marriage, the minister who's presiding is a priest or a deacon. So like I mentioned, Father John or Father Steve said at me and Pat's wedding. And the authority, as it's described, is from God. So that this is a sacrament, this is a spiritual connection that people are making. And then we have a civil marriage. Here's a picture of Mr. Merlino and his wife Jenna rocking out at their wedding. So in a civil marriage, The minister is a justice of the peace. So this is somebody who has been designated by the state that they are able to preside at a wedding. Today in our country, it's easy for people to preside. You just can sign up online, or it could be that you get a judge. So there's lots of options of who it could be. And the authority is from the government. So this is like through the city of Seattle or Washington State that you would show that you are married. So some people might do both, and some people might just do a civil marriage. So I want you to turn to your sister. Why do you think a couple might choose a sacramental marriage? So discuss for a minute, then we'll come back together. Okay, so once you are done discussing, you can come back together. So I want you to think about right now which statement is correct and how do you know? So number one, all sacramental marriages are also civil marriages. Or number two, all civil marriages are also sacramental marriages. Okay, so which one is correct? One or two? Here's the big reveal. Hopefully you said number one. So sacramental marriages are also civil marriages. So for example, Pat and I got married in a church. We had a sacramental marriage. We were married by a priest. We turned in our baptism certificates, our confirmation stuff. So we got married in the church, had a sacrament. We also have a civil marriage. So we also went to the courthouse downtown, picked up our marriage certificate. Father Steve signed it. We sent it in. We got a marriage certificate from King County, and we use that to show when we need to that we are married. So sacramental marriages are also civil marriages, but obviously not everybody does a sacramental marriage. Like for example, Mr. Molino's Jewish. He's not going to get a sacramental marriage in the Catholic Church. So him and Jenna got a civil marriage. Okay, so talking about specifically sacramental marriages, the church describes that there are three requirements for a sacramental marriage. But importantly, can you tell who this picture is? I think this one is really hard. This is Miss Vickery and her husband. I don't think it looks like her, but that's Miss Vickery looking great at her wedding day. Okay, so number one is unity. So that the couple is united in an unbreakable and exclusive union. So I want you to think about for a minute with your sister, what are some actions that would go against this requirement? Okay, so hopefully you brainstormed some ideas. We're going to see the other two here. So number one, unity. Okay, the second requirement with a picture of Miss McIntyre with her husband is indissolubility. So indissolubility is a commitment to lifelong fidelity. So I want you to share with your sister, name some actions that would go against this requirement. Okay. One common question that I get is the difference between unity and indissolubility. So I think about unity as things that really unite the couple, bring them together. Um, but indissolubility is that commitment's going to last forever. So you're not just super united at your wedding day or the first years, the first 5 years, that it's forever. Um, but they're connected, obviously, but distinct also. So that is number two, indissolubility. Okay, so the third requirement for a sacramental marriage. Here's a picture of Miss London at her wedding. Number three is openness to children. All right, so unity, indissolubility, and openness to children. So I want you to think about with your sister, what are some things that might go against this requirement? Okay, so coming back together, one of the things that comes up, and you'll read about this in your reading, just to highlight one way that people describe that they would go against this, is using contraception. So, contraception is intentionally using something to artificially prevent pregnancy, such as birth control or condoms, and those are against church teaching. We're going to talk about this later, but I do want to mention that natural family planning will come up in another unit, and that is one way that the church promotes people can space out their children, or if they don't feel like they're ready to have kids, that they might use natural family planning, which in a broad sense is using knowledge of a woman's natural fertility cycle to plan children. So there's a lot of different methods to natural family planning, but ultimately figuring out when you're most likely to get pregnant and not having sex then. Okay, so right now I want you to put your screens down, and there's two more pictures here. The top one is Mrs. Smith on her wedding day, and the bottom one is Miss Hudak on her wedding day. So a few more pictures for us today. So right now, I want you to share with your sister without looking at your notes, without looking at anything you've written down today. First, what is a sacramental marriage? And then second, what are the three requirements for a sacramental marriage?